Well, hello there. This is Maria Malec again on tour, Taking Healthy Back. And today I have a great interview with Bryan Martin. We met each other at the beginning of the year at a conference for a company that we're both brand partners for. And he was a speaker, and we ended up sitting at the same table. So it was really exciting to meet him. He's fun, he's energetic. And at the end of this video, I have a little surprise for you, something we're going to do together. Since we work for a company that sells essential oils and lifestyle products, I think we're going to do an oil right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which one did you grab? We have so many.
Release.
Oh, this is my favorite blend for emotional support. It's hauntingly beautiful.
That's a good description.
This is, of all the oils, you picked up my favorite.
And you can see here we have this beautiful diffuser, very spa-like feeling. You can see he's all set up for Christmas in the background. So it feels really awesome here. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Yeah, thanks. It was really fun when you were like, I'm stopping in. I was like, this is great. I love what you're doing. This is fantastic.
And he lives in East Jabib. We're in Pensacola.
We're near it, yeah. It's kind of like lower Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
They call it Florida, but is it?
I said if my life depended on me finding my way out of here without a GPS, I was just going to lay down and die.
Yeah.
So my first question, Bryan, is how does health relate to success for you? How is it an integral part?
That is a good question. Health and success, I think in a number of ways, if you aren't feeling well, you're not going to do your best. And that's a really good question because there's just so many parts to that.
Fill them all.
Let's unpack it. Physically, like when people think of health, they think physically is the first thing that they go to. So obviously, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not eating well, if you're not getting the nutrition and the supplements, I mean, nowadays it's just so easy to stop and grab a fast meal somewhere. And that really, although it's convenient at the moment, long-term slows everything down. Your digestion starts going off, and then your digestion's weird. That also starts giving you brain fog. So now your concentration, your focus, all of that stuff starts to crumble and slow down. So you don't have the physical energy, but then now the mental capacity isn't where it should be because you're just, you're just not giving your body what you need. And then it starts to cause other things because if you're not achieving your goals, the next thing you're going to do is start to feel disappointment. And that's going to start diving into your emotional wellness. So I think health in a broad sweep, so many people will think physically and not actually dive into, am I where I need to be mentally? Am I where I need to be emotionally? And are those also impacting my productivity and how you're succeeding in life?
Wow, that's a great answer. So my next question is 3 to 5 non-negotiables for sustaining wellness.
3 to 5. Ooh,
or more, but we don't really have that many non-negotiables.
Yeah, I think sleep. I love sleep is so important, and I have gone a long time denying myself that. So I have put that in if I'm tired, I'm tired, and that's it. And my body is telling me I need to stop, and it doesn't matter what time it is. I used to not take naps. I would guilt myself out of those. I would guilt myself if I slept even an hour extra in the morning on a day off because did I just waste my time? And I think, again, look right there, right? Physically, I mean, I need it. I'm denying myself, and then I'm making myself feel bad. I am, and it's a work in progress. So the negotiables are there, and I'm learning to tighten the boundaries of it. I think a non-negotiable is good food. Like I will stop what I'm doing and okay, you need to eat something and let's pick. I mean, I used to go for fast stuff all the time because it was easy. And now I tell myself that taking time to make a salad or to make a meal is acceptable. Again, it's that giving myself back time, I guess, is really, however I need to use it, is the biggest non-negotiable for me. And I'm still learning that, which is fine. But I think gratitude is also a non-negotiable for me. I have to stop what I'm doing and remind myself of all the things I have, because it's very easy to list all of the things that you don't have.
Right.
And that then puts you into another emotional state, which I think really leads to probably, if it's time, I think the other one would be respecting my emotions is non-negotiable, because that really is the driving force for everything that I do, all the relationships that I have, the business that I run. If I'm not checking in with myself and being honest about how I feel and not being honest with people about how I feel, then I'm not being truly myself. And authenticity is where you create my other non-negotiable, and that's joy. Finding something every day. Finding something every day that brings me joy, even for just a minute, stops the whole world, and I'm paying attention to myself. And I'm allowing myself to have at least a few minutes of a smile or a laugh, a bad joke, dancing in the kitchen, whatever it is, coloring, like whatever it is. Those
decorating,
are right.
Gorgeous.
Being a kid again, just giving myself that time every day is no longer negotiable.
And we cannot be sad and joyful at the same time.
You can't. They're opposing, they're opposites, but they also work together. It's really strange. I learned this from becoming widowed at a really early age. There will be joy and there will be grief in life for everybody. There's no denying it. At some point we will all have joy. At some point we will all have grief and loss. But they really are the yin and yang of emotions. And you learn to manage grief when you realize that you can find a balance in life. A lot of people have something terrible happen to them and then they don't allow themselves to be joyful again because they feel guilt. But that's not fair to do that to yourself. So you can't have them existing, feeling it at the exact same moment, but you may have a day where I may wake up and do a fun coffee dance in the morning and it's very joyful for me. And then later in the day, I might hear a different song that reminds me of my dad who passed away, and I'll miss him. And so I'll have a moment of feeling sad.
Sure.
Within the same day. It goes back and forth. It's like a tide, and it's natural.
I know one non-negotiable that you haven't mentioned, which are all these essential oils in your health and wellness toolkit. So tell me why they are so important and integral in your health. I know it's an extra question, but I think it bears mentioning.
I think a little bottle of plant juice. Who would have ever thought? These are so ingrained into my life now. When my partner Clayton passed away, my sister had been using oils, and this company, it infuses all their products, including supplements, and my health was so horrible with drinking crazy energy drinks I was a caregiver. So working full time, it took so much out of me, and I was drinking way too much caffeine. I wasn't eating the right things. I wasn't taking the right supplements. And she sent me some of their supplements to say, let's just try to get you back on track. And let's pick apart the things that you've let go by the wayside. And when I talked to her about it, she's like, you aren't sleeping enough. I'd get mad at myself because I wasn't allowing myself to get sleep, and then I was feeling guilty. So it was this horrible cycle. And so we just started breaking it down. I was like, what are the things that are really affecting me the most, so I can chip away at those and I can't get rid of all the emotions right now, but can I let myself sleep? like at least sleep. And so we got me started with oils and a diffuser. And what I didn't realize was when I became widowed, I was responsible for all of the bills. They don't tell you that. They don't teach you that in school, and you don't think about it when you're caring for somebody or somebody passes away suddenly. It's not what's on your mind. And I needed a second income, but I didn't want to have to go and get a second job and not be at home and take my time. So loving these products, I could actually turn it into a business that supported me through the grieving process, because if I didn't want to talk to somebody about becoming a member or about the ways to use lavender, I didn't have to be there at a certain time on someone else's, on somebody else's dime. I could do it on my own time and allow myself the freedom to grieve. So these little these little bottles, they don't seem like a lot to a lot of people, but like to get back into nature and using nature and cleaning up all the products on top of it, I know I was processing my emotions, but also I was cleaning out all of the toxins. And toxins, again, to tie back to the whole reason you're talking about this health and wellness, you get a bioaccumulation. I have a degree in science, so this is where I start to nerd out a little bit. But you can have a bioaccumulation. You may not realize that the chemicals that you're touching a little bit here and there are getting absorbed, but over the course of a month or a year, it's building up and it's affecting you. It's changing parts of you. It's stopping your hormones and getting things all out of whack.
Disrupting everything.
Right? And to have that happening when you're also trying to eat well, run a business, deal with life, deal with emotions, like getting toxins out of your system is a huge, huge part of the healing process.
Right. And people don't always connect the dots between their personal care products, their cleaning products. There's obvious poisons, but there's also hidden poisons in a lot of things that people are using, even when it says it's natural. There's, that's another rabbit hole we can go down another time. But thank you. That's a phenomenal answer. Bryan, my third and final question for you is, you already touched upon grief and working through that. How does your health contribute to the grieving process, and what are some specific things that you did, and maybe even some products that helped you through it?
Grief is a very heavy beast. It certainly is, and it can affect you in so many ways. And I think people want to either have it or get rid of it entirely. Push it away, not pay attention, or revel in it.
Right.
But the thing is it's something that you don't have to deal with in totality all right away. It's a process. There's always going to be grief there. You're always going to miss the person or the thing. Maybe it's a job that you lost that you really loved. You're always going to miss that thing. It's not going to go away, but it changes. So I think part of the health and wellness aspect of emotions and grief and getting into a healthier place is realizing that Rome isn't built in a day. You can chip away at things. For me, I needed to go to the basics. I have, and again, this is where grief brings gratitude, strangely enough.
Okay. Never heard that, but I think that's awesome.
And you'll grow through your grief and with your grief. It's almost like fertilizer for a plant. You're buried in it, but when you get out, like all of a sudden you're this beautiful, different version of yourself, because you really understand things better and you have more appreciation. So I think for me, with my biology background, I really dove into what the basics of my grief was. And of course I missed my dad, I missed my partner, but at the very core, I said, let's just push all the emotions, like let's move them aside and go deeper. Why are these emotions even coming up? And for me, for all animals, it's survival. It's safety. There are things that we need to survive. And I was putting, there's nutrition, there's shelter, there's water. I was eating like crap. I was, at that point, not drinking water unless it was in the form of probably wine, right? A lot of us end up doing that, like, and it's, you know, it's a part of our culture we have to be mindful of. But shelter, I was scared that I was going to lose my apartment and I couldn't afford it. So at the basis of my grief, my biggest fears were what's innate. And I recognize that people forget that they're animals. We put ourselves on a platform and we don't often give ourselves the benefit of the doubt that a lot of the emotional stress that's occurring, physical stress that's occurring, is just the deep need to feel safe. Not having community, not having, you know, enough food, enough shelter. All of those things are the reasons that cause all the stress and emotions in our lives. So if we can chip away at those things and make them safe for us, we're creating a better foundation. And from that, you can grow as big as you want. And it's okay if that foundation gets rattled. It's okay for you to grieve. It's okay for you to not feel safe. But that's what I had to be honest with myself. And a lot of people aren't because they're afraid. But the thing is you're wiping it clean. You're starting over fresh. And
did you let people in?
I did.
I did. Because some people isolate.
Yeah. I think there were days that I kept to myself, but I made sure that I could at least find a resource, or I knew of somebody who had gone through something that I went through. So then I didn't feel so lonely. Right. Like, I knew my friend Jenny had lost her fiance Cole, and we were the same age. I could see what Jenny was doing years after Cole had passed, and it gave me hope. Okay. I may not have talked to her every day, but I knew that I wasn't alone, and somebody had already gone through it and kept going. So having people around in some way as an example to you that there's smiles in your future will definitely help. But then I did, like I said, I chipped away. It was sleep. It was making sure that I had my foundational things. I had to pour in and build a business on top of all of that, and that took a lot of effort when I really could have just been grieving. But then I got my business plus my full-time job to a point where I didn't have to move, and I got to stay in the apartment that he and I had that decorated. I didn't have to take anything down right away. I could grieve on my own. And I think all of that ties in with health and being successful with whatever it is that you're trying to do. At the end of the day, we just want to live our best lives.
Awesome. Yeah. What I hear a lot from you is that self-regulation is really a key to success as well.
Yeah, we swing so far some ways when things are out of whack that if we aren't checking ourselves, you know, if we're eating too much, if we're drinking too much, if we're not having, you know, enough sleep, we overextend ourselves because society has told us more. We need more out of you. We need more out of you. And, you know, I think we've seen that where people are tired these days of working so hard and not getting paid enough, not being able to have vacation enough, not having the money to, you know, have the comforts of home for their family. I think that's all coming together, and it's all part of our health. Seeing how other people are, the society pressures that we have. Right. If you're not regulating yourself, you're throwing yourself way out of whack. Yeah. And then everything else starts to snowball.
Great answer. Thank you. I know you have a support group. Please share that with people who resonate with what you said and could use some relief.
Yeah, if you're in the widowed community, then you can go to Soaring Spirits International. It's a nonprofit support group for widowed people, and there's bloggers every day of the week that have lost their person for different reasons. So there's lots of people you could resonate with. They have events and gatherings where you can go and learn resources, connect with people so you don't feel lonely. They have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. And really, I think I have sent people there that are grieving for different reasons, and they have found resources for themselves, because in the end, really, grief is just a loss, and it's love that doesn't have a place to go. And people can connect over, even though it's me writing my widowed blog, I know people who have gone through a divorce or a separation, and they feel like the person they were in love with had died.
Oh, wow.
And so
that's a good point.
Words and support, even though it's written in a way somebody else's experience, could really be a blessing for people.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you wrote a book.
Yes.
It's newly off the press, right?
Yes. The Widowed Dancer, Growing Through Grief with Gratitude. And I spent about 5 years writing every week about being widowed and how it was affecting me. Just to share, for me personally, writing is very healing. And to get those words out could help other people. And it's started to become a big thing on social media, and people were leaning into it to help them get through. And again, I have people who've lost children that read my blog, and they say that it helps them. They have lost pets, they have lost their jobs. It's just showing that grief is normal, and that if we talk about it, it's less scary and less stressful if you know that other people have been through it and they've made it. You've survived 100% of your hardest days. And if you remind yourself that every single day, you really can keep going. So yeah, people can get it on Kindle, paperback, or hardcover on Amazon.
And what are your social media handles?
Oh, so I spent 23 years, my favorite animals are sea lions. So I'm known as Sea Lion Bryan. It's Bryan with a Y. So on Facebook, you can look up Bryan Martin, and also on Instagram and TikTok. So at Sea Lion Bryan, you'll find me.
Yeah, and you're going to want to go follow him on social media. He's a lot of fun. And a lot of fun in person, too.
It's fun hanging out with you. I'm glad you stopped by.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for a little bonus after this video.